We'll be taking you through the day's 8-game NBA slate, a lot of interesting angles, some late-breaking injury news as well that we're going to keep you updated on. I'm Chris Spags, joined by the best brain in the business, Fast Eddie Fear. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing just fine. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk basketball. We were talking a little before we came on the air, and Eddie gave me his picks. So like now I'm going to win a lot of money and not tell you any of them. But that's just how the show works, right? We
Oh,
don't give
yeah,
them
we're
anything.
losing reception. That'd be great.
Oh.
You tank the thing.
Yeah, sorry guys, no help for you guys, just all for me today. No, Eddie, let's start up top with the thing that people always care about the most, the value guys on the slate who you were looking towards. Give the people that. And again, if you give these picks, they get better if you guys like the video too as we go. So please throw us a like on YouTube while Eddie does this. But go ahead, Eddie.
I didn't know that. I didn't know the picks got better if people clicked like.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation.
Interesting. Yeah, I like Pascal again for the Raptors. Again, Kawhi is back. Hopefully that favors the ownership a little bit. But still with no OG Anunoby out there, he should still be playing about 30 minutes. I don't think you get the game we got out of him last time because the usage won't be so high. I know I look ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I don't plan my outfit as well for these shows as say Spags does here, but I figured I would try to go half preppy golf, half skater boy. I don't really know what's going on
you
here.
were a skater boy. She said, "See you later, boy." You weren't good enough for her.
Yeah, exactly. I'm building a brand. I don't know what that brand is, but apparently it involves. All right, fine. You've embarrassed me out of wearing my stupid hat. All right, so Pascal Siakam it still makes plenty of sense. Should be pretty popular. Should be a fairly cashy guy there. I like Bembry still. Mostly sort of a in tournaments thing, but certainly don't mind my man there in cash. Yeah, has been playing some backup point. Small forward only on DK makes him a little bit sticky, but the matchup with Cleveland is outstanding, and he's just too cheap relative to the production he's been putting out. I don't see any particular reason that would start, so I think you can play Bembry in just about anything. Waiting on news from Oklahoma City that we almost certainly won't have in time, but again, you should have sort of a late swap plan there to be able to functionally Nerlens Noel in the event he is in and Steven Adams is out. Regardless of that, Jeremy Grant still 4,200 on DK. A tournament play, even a cash play, I'm a pretty big fan of. He's getting the starts now, and he's getting really significant time. And with the possibility of those other guys being out, that's a little bit more usage, but it's significantly more rebounds. And you know, he's gotten you basically 20 or more every game this year. His worst game was 19.6, but he's just been very, very consistent. Although I will say that 19.6 was against OKC. But I'm trying to think if there's anyone else I'm particularly strong on. I did not populate, value list today. So I will give me a minute. I think, have a Frank Mason the third plan. If we find out De'Aaron Fox is out, he should all of a sudden turn into a pretty good piece of value who's just going to get a pile of minutes at his price. Don't really want a Sam Decker, even though I think he starts. He probably gets 24 minutes. There's not much of an upside there, and I think you can do better at that amount of money. Don't really want a Colin Sexton. Just hasn't shown a ton of upside for me. No reason to think he's necessarily all of a sudden going to get 30 minutes. On that team, Jordan Clarkson, I guess at 4,400 on FanDuel is an interesting tournament play. That's under the sort of arbitrary 4,500 value sort of threshold I've put there. Let's see. No, not that. Sorry, it takes a minute when I haven't populated a list particularly, so I'm sort of tabbing through it. You can still, Terrence Ross in tournaments. There's an upside there. Certainly not a spot I'm looking at. Miles Bridges is an interesting spot. Got 25, got 30 minutes the last two games that the Hornets played. Some of that is apropos of single game externalities, but I do think you're pretty consistently going to get 25 minutes out of him. Not a matchup I'm looking to exploit from the wings, but he's only $3,400 on DK. I imagine at that price, he's your best guy at that price for Miles. It's Miles Bridges is the one on Charlotte. Yes, McCall's on the Suns. Okay, sorry. Let's see. Beyond that, a lot of guys you can randomly throw in a tournament. I don't think there's anyone else particularly making my socks roll up and down. So I'll throw it in a question if I forgot somebody that's the top of my head. Jeff Green. I like Jeff Green a fair amount. We already know that Markieff is out. So that's just going to bring some extra minutes. Kelly Oubre is questionable. If Kelly Oubre is actually out, then Jeff Green should see a pretty big role. And that even, they'll run small some fair amount in this game, so you can even, Austin Rivers if you want to or something like that. So some piece of the Washington game, but probably Jeff Green, the one I'm most excited with. And Evan Turner, who's been really, really good. And his price came down based on what I presume they for some reason think is a difficult matchup based on some last year externalities carrying over. He's 4,800 on FanDuel. He's 3,900 on DK. That's just simply too cheap. You look at his... he hasn't failed to get 20 fantasy points this year in 6 games at 3,900. So that's a very encouraging floor. Like, if your floor is better than 5x, that's pretty exciting. Hasn't quite gotten to 30 yet, but 29, 21, 21, 23, 27, 29 fantasy points. $3,900. That feels pretty good in a matchup I really don't hate that much against Houston. So Evan Turner, another guy at that DK price, you can put in anything, and I don't think is wrong. And the ownership will be better than, say, Pascal Siakam at the exact same price. So
interesting. Yeah, I actually landed my projections and Fantasy Cruncher's projections landed me on Evan Turner too, and I was like, why? And I looked at his numbers and was surprised. He's been pretty good, not overly efficient in a way where he's going to be, it's impossible to reach ceiling for him. So yeah, I don't mind him either. I think he gets you some things on DraftKings in particular for where I'm making my lineups. I'm glad you said him. I'm glad. I feel less ashamed of playing Evan Turner with that.
I am toying with rankings as we speak, and I'm just redoing Washington from some news and a couple other things, and then I'm going to upload those in probably 4 or 6 minutes, depending how much talking Spags does over those 4 minutes and how much I have to do.
So, let's start talking about the slate. Also, a lot of people commenting on my dog in the background. Yes, that's my sweet girl, Callie, who has to go to the vet again today because she has so many issues that just pop up over and over again, and now it's pink eye. So it's lots of fun.
She has pink eye? She has conjunctivitis?
She does some version of it. It's not like a bad one, but she was like scratching her eye a little, and I don't know. But she's a yellow lab, so she's, I don't know, probably a lot of incest in the family line, I think.
Are yellow labs particularly known for incest, and I'm unaware of this? Is it like a Caligula
Any purebred
thing?
dog tends to have some incest in the pipeline.
Oh, I guess that would make sense. That's
so they tend to be a little more susceptible to the various diseases and illnesses that pop up. But it's fun stuff.
Royalty.
Yes, exactly. That's the same thing. They're just like the kings and archdukes of Eastern Europe. But I'll start talking about the first game on the slate while Eddie tries to finish up his projections.
Nice.
We have Miami going. Oh, go ahead.
No, nice. What? Talk.
Okay, nice.
Thumbs up, soldier.
Miami going into Charlotte is the first matchup we have on the board. Miami is an underdog by about 4 points, the last that I checked. Hassan Whiteside coming off of the big game there. Josh Richardson as well coming off the big game as well. Rodney McGruder, his first really bad performance. And Kelly Olynyk, the night that people decided to trust him, of course, did not show up. We won't talk about any other jokes related to Kelly Olynyk. And on the Charlotte side, you're expected to have some ownership for Kemba Walker and Nicholas Batum and Jeremy Lamb. According to our projections at Osmo.com, which you can get right now. You sign up using promo code LiveBeforeLock. But this game should be pretty popular. I think a lot of people thinking Miami's defense isn't that good, and it's been up and down this year. I guess what are the points that you're seeing for this game so far, Eddie?
What game are we talking about?
Miami at Charlotte.
Okay, Miami at Charlotte. Let's start talking about Miami. Again, they have more and more guys coming back. I don't know if they're randomly going to play Wayne Ellington today, but again, a team I'm generally not super high on because the minutes per guy are going to continue to come down over time. We like the matchup, but Dragic has his minutes guaranteed. He's fine to play Goran Dragic in a tournament against Kemba defense. He's had big games there before. I would rather play Kemba at his price than Goran Dragic at his price, but Dragic is in play for tournaments. When you look at everyone else from Wayne, who may not play again, to Magruder, to Richardson, to Kelly O, to Dwayne Wade, to Tyler Johnson, to Justice Winslow, they're just really chopping up those 2, 3, 4 minutes and a little bit of backup 5 there for Kelly O frequently. Hard for me to be in love with anyone there. Like, I would rather play Taurean Prince in his matchup than Josh Richardson here. And I don't want to spend 6'2" or 56 for Rodney Magruder. And I don't mind playing Kelly O on DraftKings in tournaments again, just because he's shat all over everyone, and Kelly O is a guy who carries some upside with him, and his ownership will be a quarter of what it was yesterday. So $5,200 Kelly O would be one of the 3 spots in this game I could see taking a piece of. Maybe a 4th. I could see playing Justice Winslow in a tournament. It would just have to be a tournament. But Steals and Blocks can do some funny things on FanDuel once in a while. I wouldn't look at that strictly as a mistake. He's a little cheaper on DK. I can see playing Hassan Whiteside. It was obviously great yesterday. Not my favorite play. Shout out to the earlier shows who were apparently all over him, but he went out and threw up a 60 burger yesterday. You expect his ownership to be significant. It's not a matchup I'm super thrilled with. Had some foul trouble when these two teams did play just earlier this year. I will pull up the game logs for that because it seems like it would be vaguely relevant to the conversation we're having here. But these two teams did get together and have a dance earlier this year. And that was one of Whiteside Porter's games, but he only played 24 minutes and still produced well more than that in fantasy points, and I still think he's getting his 28-30 minutes today, so the price is no longer way too cheap like it was for a while, but certainly Hassan Whiteside in tournaments makes sense. Again, Olynyk in tournaments makes sense. Dragic in tournaments makes sense, but no cash plays on this Miami team for me, period. If I had to play one of those guys in cash, I guess it would be Kelly O for some sort of, I expect him to start again, and the price is cheap, but really just a few tournament plays there. Kemba Walker's still too cheap on DraftKings. He's still probably a little too cheap on FanDuel. I would do whatever was necessary to be massively over the field on Chris Paul today. So for that reason, I imagine that means I would have less Kemba Walker than I would like to have, but still $8,300 Kemba Walker on DK is just way the hell too cheap. You look at his fantasy point scoring this year, 52, 36, 53.5, and that was against Miami, by the way, 42, 41, 46, 60. At 8K, that's just way the hell too cheap. He has one game where he came in at 36, because that game was a blowout, by the way. He played 26 minutes in that game. So he had 36 fantasy points in his 26 minutes. And has just constantly thrown out 40s, 50s, and a 60 in there. I did 8,300 is simply too cheap. The matchup isn't particularly imposing, and that makes me similarly limp on the rest of the team. Charlotte is, there's only so much usage to go around, and if Kemba's taking up 40% of it, then the other guys are scrambling for the other 60. That leaves them all around 15, which makes them all sort of unexciting. So Miles Bridges is a value guy, even maybe as a cash punt, 3,400 on DK. He's probably your cash punt at that price. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist in tournaments can do, 7 steal block upside kind of game. He's under 4K on both sites. Feel free to do that. I think you can do Cody Zeller in a tournament, theory being, okay, they got to body up a little more. They're putting Whiteside out there. We can't run MKG at center for 20 minutes, so 4,100 for Cody Zeller. Sure, he can smash that price if he randomly gets 26 minutes, which wouldn't shock me. Batum, I expect to be pretty popular at $5,200. Again, the usage has been staggeringly low for Nicholas Batum, but and again, I like playing Batum at 5,200 because he does have real 40-point upside. It will happen once in a while, but this is not the matchup I necessarily am looking for it in, because Kemba has a great matchup and the Wings aren't that great of a matchup, so both things sort of tilt a little towards Kemba continuing to put the hammer down than Batum ticking up his usage. So, but still, certainly nothing wrong with $5,200 Batum. And Jeremy Lamb just busts out odd games every once in a while, has done it against Miami, and he's 4,600 on DK. I think that's just fine to run out there in tournament. He's getting time, randomly picks up double-digit rebound games once in a while, can splash some threes. So Kemba, basically, in anything you want to play him in. Batum and Lamb at their DK prices, strong in tournaments. Cody, I'm not going to play any Marvin. MKG in tournaments, Miles Bridges sort of as a cash punt. But even on FanDuel, some people ask me about playing him at 4K. I would rather play Jeff Green. So when you're talking about that, so he'd be, if you had a lot of lineups, sure, I think that's absolutely tolerable to run him out there in some of them. But that's where I land on this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Kemba Walker ride or die tonight. I think, the Heat could be a little better tonight. It is a back-to-back, though, so I think that does benefit Kemba and those guys a little bit. But I'm with you. I think he's the guy here. And if there's going to be a lot of ownership on Lamb and Batum, like we're currently projecting, both guys projected for over 20% right now on Osmo.com. Yep. That might be a little high, but still not a place I want to be because I just don't trust either, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're fine tournament plays, but they're not even that lower owned.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about the next game on the board. We have Atlanta going into Cleveland. And this is a game which California Cool in the premium Slack, which, by the way, if you are not a regular of the show, we are checking the premium Slack first for questions, but we're working both in, but premium Slack does have priority. So it benefits you to become an Osmo.com member and get in the mix there. But California Cool asking, should we be taking a wait and see approach with the Cavs? There's a lot of changes there. Larry Drew taking over as the not interim, but actually the interim head coach. Kevin Love out for at least a month, probably. What are you making of this game, and what are you making of the Cavs in particular?
Yeah, should you be taking a wait-and-see approach? If you're risk-averse, yes. There's really nothing I can guarantee is going to happen on this team. I can make some guesses at it, but yeah, there's very little solid with this Cleveland team right now. So that being said, that will result in lower than expected ownership for a pile of guys in a pretty tits matchup with all the upside in the world, and so that's how you win tournaments. Now you can win a tournament without anyone from this game. We've had some really weird results where Atlanta had, I'm trying to remember who Atlanta was playing, the Atlanta-Chicago game where they missed the over-under by 50, which I still think might be some sort of NBA record. I haven't looked it up, but the Atlanta played Chicago and the over-under was 232 and they scored 182. That has to be close to the furthest miss off an over-under ever. So these are a couple really sloppy teams. Atlanta just scores by basically shooting three-pointers, and they don't have the world's best three-point shooters. So if that doesn't work out, and Cleveland is just dreadful. I think someone told me Cleveland was favored by a few in this game. I didn't think I'd see Cleveland favored in a lot of games this year, but there's a lot of bad basketball here. So, again, specifically to Cleveland, which you referenced, yeah, you can play Larry Nance and hope that they give him some time next to Tristan Thompson, or just only play Tristan Thompson 20 minutes and you get 28 minutes of Larry Nance either way. He's pretty great at that price. 6.2, 6.6, Larry Nance Jr. Getting that much time. Sexy. I'm just fine with that. His usage has been stellar these last few games. It's not like he's had unsustainable shooting or unsustainable steals, blocks. Like, he's, with this completely gimp-ass basketball team, going to be like a fantasy point and a half a minute kind of guy. So you tell me he gets 28 minutes, that's like 40 fantasy points to me. But I can't guarantee you that, and there's lots of other compelling plays, and he's not that cheap anymore. He's 6 and change everywhere. So feel free to play some Larry Nance, but it's just tournaments. Tristan Thompson's like 44, 4,500. I don't hate the matchup. He can certainly randomly get a double-double and 2 blocks and get 30 at that price. I don't think that's unplayable in tournaments, and he's going to be 1% owned. Colin Sexton might finally get there. I don't think I really want him at his price. I haven't seen the upside game yet, but I wouldn't look at him in a tournament as strictly wrong. George Hill doesn't have a ton of upside. I don't think randomly all of a sudden they start giving him 30 minutes now. Like, Kevin Love has a toe injury, and they're like, we'll check again in a month. Pretty clearly, they've fully hit this shit into reverse and are going full tank. So you expect the kids to get some more minutes. Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson's going to play 22, 24 minutes. He's going to take 15 shots. He makes 10 of them. He's going to absolutely smash his value. Chetty Osman has been terrible for 4 consecutive games.
Everybody keeps owning him too, which is hilarious.
Right. He's 5,500 on DK against the Hawks, and he might not shoot 20% from the field this game. If he makes half his shots, he's going to take 15. He might take 20. Yeah, he can smash the shit out of that price. But, there is no one on this Cavs team, and feel free to ask about any particular guys I haven't mentioned yet that are safe to me. But if you're building especially a pile of lineups and want to grab one of the guys I mentioned, it is on, Rodney Hood costs way the fuck more than I want to spend on Rodney Hood, but he might take 23 shots and play 29 minutes in this game. That's a very real possibility. So, they're nice guys to grab a share of here, a share of there. But time to lower my volume as the pings are coming.
The pings are coming.
Yep.
I'm with you on all that stuff too. I think that makes sense. Chetty, though, this is going to be the game that Chetty goes off. I'm not playing a lot of him, but I don't want to trust the guy. I think I maybe one lineup with him, but this will be the game where he puts up 40 again, and everybody's like, "Come on!" I feel it in my bones.
Sure. It has to happen eventually. He cannot completely. Yesterday we said, and it turned out to be frighteningly accurate. It's not like the dude completely forgot how to shoot a basketball about Klay Thompson. I was on yesterday with Josh, and I'm like, look, I really like Klay Thompson. He's going to make some buckets at some point. Now, again, I didn't think he was going to set the, record all time for made 3-pointers, but we talked about it a lot, and I said in that position, this is the best possible matchup for him. Against the Bulls is by far the best spot you can have as a catch and shoot 3-point shooting guard expert right now. And that worked out. I think we were, several times the field there. So it's not that good of a spot for Chetty. There's still the inevitability of positive regression, but they have a couple very competent wing defenders on Atlanta. Their best couple defenders would be Taurean Prince and would be Kent Bazemore, both of whom will spend some time trying to hold it down on him. So, okay, guys, the questions are coming, I promise. So, long story short, yeah, feel free to take some pieces there. But of Cleveland, I'm taking one-ofs in tournaments here and there and all around the corner.
Yep, that makes sense to me. Quick thoughts on the Atlanta side as well, because Atlanta to me stands out, giving how bad Cleveland's defense has been. They're giving up a 51.2% shooting percentage from the floor, 42.2% from three, both of which I believe would be the highest on this slate. Yep. It's a really bad defense on Cleveland's side. Yes. Trae Young getting going, Prince getting going. Somebody here is going to get going.
Well, yeah, I mean, these two teams did play, and when these teams played, Trae Young had 60. Like, that was this game. He was playing the Cavs when he did the 13 for 23 game where he made 6 threes and whatever the hell else and got the double-digit assist, which we've been talking about his ceiling all year being that. There's no reason to think this is any different. So your first couple guys to look at are Trae Young and Kent Bazemore on DK at that 5,700 pricing. Play one, don't play both. Trae Young, you'd probably like a little more on FanDuel because he's $100 cheaper than he is on DK, and whenever that's disparity, that's the spot. It's still just tournaments for me. Trae Young is going to be a very inconsistent quantity, but we've demonstrated this is a spot in which he can hit the insane upside. Again, that game was a week ago, so no issue with Trae Young in tournaments. No issue with Kent Bazemore. Still not really a cashy guy ever, that sort of tournaments. Taurean Prince, we just aren't consistently seeing as many minutes as we would like to see because they're just carving out minutes off the bench for DeAndre Bembry. Though it's nice to see him taking some of those times at the point and just sort of expurgating Jeremy Lin from the rotation. But that's the third guy I'm looking at. And then both centers are not unplayable in tournaments in a pretty stellar matchup. I would probably rather play Dwayne Dedmon, and neither of them are priced quite as nice as I would like to see. But, yeah, Young, depending on site, DK would be Bazemore Young. FanDuel would be Young Bazemore for me. Bembry, either one comes in third. And then after that, either of the centers is pretty compelling tournament plays would be my full Atlanta tank as I get back to rankings because people are yelling at me.
Yes, I would go. So for me, I think the guy I have the most of is Bazemore. But the guy who I trust the most, I just couldn't quite get there price-wise, is Prince. Prince, to me, is a guy who's just not – he needs some shooting regression to come through. He's been shooting 41% from the floor, 38% from three. He's also very active on the floor, which I think is going to be helpful for this matchup, where there should be some turnovers coming his way and just some general sloppiness. So Prince is the guy I would like on that side the most, but I think there's also value in going Young, Bazemore, and Dwayne Dedmon, who hurt my heart yesterday, not getting enough minutes versus Philly, but looked good in the minutes he did get. Sacramento and Orlando up next. Another game which is going a little under the radar, maybe not under the radar enough because there is a ton of ownership projected for both Buddy Hield and Aaron Gordon in this game. Orlando's favored. Again, Sacramento just got crushed yesterday by Hassan Whiteside, as Eddie mentioned earlier. A lot of people, I think, who are a little sharper have been talking about Vucevic in this spot. I am not one of those people, but I am going with Vucevic in this spot a ton. I like him a lot. He's actually, I think, my favorite center on the board. I think you could go back on the other side with Willie Cauley-Stein. And I also like the other pieces in Orlando as well. Fournier looks good to me. Gordon does look good, even though the ownership is kind of scary. And Terrence Ross and Jonathan Simmons, who finally had an okay showing the last time out, I think are interesting low-cost GPP plays because somebody has to score on that second unit as well, given the pace on Sacramento's side. And we do have De'Aaron Fox, who is going to be available to play. That is the breaking news that we had before we started. So now that we covered all that, hopefully that bought you enough time to finish rankings, Eddie. What do you think about this one?
Very nearly, but I'll do this one, then I'll finish rankings, so you'll have them in about 3 minutes. We are talking about Sacramento and Orlando. So, yeah, I like a lot of guys from this game, and it's nice, I suppose, in general to have the news. Let me check all my Twitter alerts here. That Jeremy Grant is still starting. The Hornets are playing who think you are. Nerlens Noel is in, and Steven Adams will start. So, okay, that's all right. So all sorts of value just disappeared with Noel. Make sure Jeremy Grant shares worse. All that coming down the pipe. Okay, so good. Now we have some clarity and can talk about this a little bit. Uh, Nemanja Bjelica has scored 40 or more fantasy points 3 consecutive games and still costs 5,700 on DK. There were 2 blowout games he didn't play a lot. Otherwise, his game log this year, if we ignore the 2 games in which he played 20 and 10 minutes, are 27, 30, 31, 36, and 32 minutes, 34, 35, 46, 50, and 41 fantasy points. He costs 57. I'm not super scared about a matchup with Orlando. Yeah, like, they're on a back-to-back, there's ways to be nervous, Dave Yeager is a complete and total fucktwit, like, there's any number of concerns here, but any just objective game log watching and pure numerical looking at the situation makes you think this looks pretty stellar. Now, I can come up with bad reasons, again, back-to-back, that's not exciting. Game blows out and he absolutely gets set down, so there is a significant floor. He was dog shit in 2 out of 7 games and stellar in the other 5. Matchup with Jonathan Isaac, not particularly good. Jonathan Isaac, a strong defender whose game I really like and I think matches up well here. But I expect Buddy Hield to be owned out the wazoo, although that will come down a little bit with the news that De'Aaron Fox is playing. But Nemanja Bjelica, a pretty stellar play here. And I do think they have Isaac cross-guard him. Sorry, I didn't make that immediately intuitive. I think Isaac moves over and guards Bjelica. We'll see when this game starts, but that's my guess for how they arrange their defense there. I think you get some largely ignoring Shumpert and some like box and one bullshit. But I do think you actually see most of the time Isaac guarding Bjelica there.
It could be tough sledding. A lot of length for Isaac, and Bjelica, not the fleetest of foot and not the highest of jumpers.
No, there's and again he's a full dozen years younger than me, but Bjelica's 30 years old, I think. So he's not the freshest chick in the henhouse, but Buddy Hield will be popular, and he should be popular. More importantly, they're just finally giving him minutes, which they should have been doing for a long time now. There's been less dicking around with, let's make sure Yogi Ferrell gets time, and let's give Frank Jackson odd bits of minutes. And, they're now starting him next to Shumpert, so he's not losing time there. So Buddy Hield at $5,500 is just objectively mispriced. On FanDuel, I would rather play a number of other guys in the 6K range. Where Fournier is cheaper, I'd rather play him. Where Gordon is cheaper, I'd rather play him. And I'm missing at least one other who I slightly prefer there. But DK especially, Buddy Hield is very well priced, and feel free to play him in anything you want to. I like Willie Cauley-Stein in the matchup. He's not incredible. Vooch's defense has improved fairly significantly, so I do think that's relevant here. But where he's $6,300, and again, it's worth pointing out that the Kings, you have Fox and Hield and Bjelica and Willie Cauley-Stein, who, if the game stays close, are great. At their prices, they're great, and if they get blown out, they're shit. So either play several of them along with some Magic starters, or play the other guys who come off the bench. You want to play Bagley? Bagley has a massive upside, but you're saying they either blow out or get blown out. I suppose they would also truncate their minutes if they were up by 20, which is certainly a real possibility. This is a Magic team that lost by 32 to Charlotte at one point earlier this year, so they can certainly get their shit pushed in. Looking at the Magic real quick, I don't think there's a reason to DJ Augustine. It seems like he's mostly going to stay in that timeshare with Grant. Fournier is in a very good spot. Shout out to EMAC shooting guards versus the Kings. Jonathan Isaac, 4,700 on DK, especially just tournaments, but there is a real upside there where he can do steals and blocks and various stuff and give you a giant game. Aaron Gordon is way too cheap on DK, coming off a couple bad games. I expect him to be fairly popular, but certainly seems like a spot in which he could end up throwing up a massive game. And Vooch is going to be very low owned at his price. And we've had a couple days this year already with 2 to 5% owned Vooch putting up 47 and cracking the slate. I'm less excited about that because I really do like Joel Embiid today. And so there is a pay-up option I'm a much bigger fan of. So I'm not that big of a fan of Vooch, but he still today and most days makes a very compelling tournament play. I am finishing.
All right, and let's get on to. I think you covered everything there, and I said my point up front. But yeah, Vooch is just a guy I'm smashing today. He is a little high priced on DK, so that does hurt his upside a bit. But I think if we're looking for the tournament upside that you're hoping to get, I do think you can still get there. And this matchup, Detroit at Boston, is actually going to be a game I'm going to assume we're not going to spend a ton of time on.
Yeah.
What?
I was yawning. These two teams played a few days ago. Marcus Morris had the most fantasy points in the game with 32. Discuss.
Yeah, that's
So that says a lot about
not the
Kyrie's
best.
game and Blake's game and Drummond's game and a lot of other people's game and Tatum's game, and like, it was understandably fugly. I will take the over on high fantasy point scorer in this game of 32. I will guess someone does exceed 32 in this game, but yeah. It is not a environment, especially in today's hyperactive, completely ridiculous speed NBA, that I think is extremely conducive to fantasy points.
Yeah, the adjusted pace, which is just basically me combining both the paces of the team, so I get a better read on what it should break down to. 102.6, which would be the lowest on the slate, but I think a pretty decent margin. Yes, I don't know. I don't really like anything in this game. I think I have maybe a one off Kyrie, a one off Tatum, maybe one off Drummond. I don't mind Blake either, but again, we just saw it, and I watched that game. I skimmed through the highlights. I didn't watch it live, and it just nobody looked good. Jaylen Brown looked okay. That's about it. But no interest in me in this game. Is there anything you would even take from it at all, Eddie?
I mean, Drummond, after pushing in Horford shit 7 times in a row, has not done so basically 3 times in a row. In last game, they managed to do it with Baines even out. Now Baines is back and playing, who was previously part of their excellent anti-Drummond strategy. So I still think you can play Drummond in tournaments, because I don't think all of a sudden, the Celtics are now Drummond-proof. I don't think they have, completely solved the answer. There was some foul trouble in the last game. I recall his price on DK being, it's 85. So, yeah, some GPP exposure to Drummond makes sense to me. I would have very little interest in Blake. This isn't a matchup against the Celtics. I want to play Bullock or Johnson. $5,200 Reggie Jackson would be fine with me in tournaments. You can do that. That's really it there. And then looking at the Celtics, I think you can play Kyrie Irving in tournaments. There's no one on the other side I expect to be able to stop him. Neither Reggie or Ish are going to stop Kyrie if he decides to play basketball again. So this, very similar to the Clay situation yesterday, except this not a stellar matchup. This is still generally a pretty poor matchup, though the micro individual matchup is pretty strong with the guys who will be guarding him. But, still some interest in, just because Kyrie is going to score 50 to 60 fantasy points in his next 3 games. That will happen at some point. I don't think, the entire reason he left Cleveland, people usually leave cities to do one of 2 things. I'm going to get more money, or I'm going to win a title. And when Kyrie left Cleveland, he did so because he wanted to be the man, even though it ensured he would get less money and probably have, at the time, a lesser chance at a title, because he left Braun. Now Braun's gone. It turned out to be very, sagacious. But yeah. So, I think Kyrie had a certain I want to be the man mentality when he did what he did. So, yeah, that's where I am there. I would continue to have a fair amount of interest in Kyrie in tournaments for that reason. But that is my takes on this game.
Yeah, I think, you don't have to do a ton to get above the field on Kyrie. And if you want to do that, I think I agree. It's totally fine spot for him. Actually, you know what? We're projecting some ownership for him. On DK, at least, he's projected for 18% in the last update that I have on my spreadsheet. So that would be too much. And if that's the case, I'm good. I think I'm good here. Philadelphia, Toronto next on the slate, and we'll try to get a little faster here. Toronto is actually the highest team total on the slate going against Philly. Philly coming off of a pretty.
I would have thought it would have been like Cleveland or Atlanta as the highest team total.
No, I think it's Toronto by like a hair. Yeah, Cleveland's 115.
Okay, what's Toronto's like 116?
116.5, I believe.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I mean they have been they have played with some lovely pace. I am uploading the things now, everyone. Sorry, okay. I had to change around, and then Sacramento changed their thing, and this always happens where I'm trying to, get them in, and I'm like, oh, I've got it. Oh, wait, there's a change. Oh, I got it, and then there's 4 more changes, and it seems done to upload them, and then just re-upload them a minute later. But 6:35 is at least 10 minutes later than I like to do this, because I like people to be able to react. So sorry for the pace on that, premium people. I'll try to be better.
Yeah, there you go. So that'll be up soon. Go check that out. Again, premium members can see it on Osmo.com. Promo code live before lock. That's a live before lock. Will get you 1 week free. So you could check Eddie's rankings and Osmo's rankings and the ownership projections all week. Maybe win some money this week for your Halloween celebration. I don't know. It's interesting, though, Toronto, to me, having the highest total here. Kawhi predicted for very low ownership. Kyle Lowry expected to be Pascal Siakam expected to be the highest owned guy on the Raptors side, with Kyle Lowry just behind him. I think it's an interesting spot for Kawhi, given obviously he's the highest usage guy there. Also, Danny Green is playable today because Kawhi is playing, and you only play Danny Green if Kawhi is playing. Never play Danny Green if Kawhi is not playing. The two-man game that contributes to Danny Green's value only comes with Kawhi. So that's something I've seen in games, which I feel like people have not caught on to yet. Don't play Danny Green if Kawhi isn't playing, and he's in play if Kawhi is playing.
Really?
Philadelphia, Embiid coming off a terrible game, should be in a decent spot to rebound here, going against guys who don't match up well with him and Jonas and Serge Ibaka. And also Serge last night having a monster performance too, which is pretty interesting. His usage rate's been crazy high lately. What do you think about this one, Eddie?
Yeah, I was all over Ibaka yesterday. I mentioned him a couple times. He's just been too cheap. He hasn't had a bad game yet. Like, Ibaka is still, now he's 5-1 today. He hasn't scored under 20. He's in that Evan Turner category of, unlike Evan Turner, he's barely failed to 5x a couple times, but just barely. You have not had a bad Serge Ibaka game. And again, having no Anunoby out there points to a positive number of minutes for him. So only 28 minutes last night, by the way, I'm putting up those 45 fantasy points. And, fantasy points for Ibaka this year, 32, 33, 31, 25, 23, 23, 45, is $5,100, $5,200. Like, he has not yet disappointed, and I do think it's a spot in which there is some reasonable upside in both minutes and production. So, pretty big fan of the Ibaka play still, and he's not so owned that there's not, some sort of upside you can pull out of that. All right, so the rest of the Philadelphia Toronto, I really like Joel Embiid. His ownership will be down because he was dog shit yesterday and killed a lot of people, and it's always nice when that happens. I prefer him to Simmons on either site at their prices. He's $600 to $800 cheaper on both sides. I'm more a fan of the Embiid play. I think Simmons is just fine, but he rests just as tournaments for me at that price in a world with Kemba Walker and Chris Paul and various other things. I don't like Simmons in cash. I can see Joel Embiid in cash just fine. The matchups, I'm a real believer, especially with Kawhi back, in this Toronto defense, and so I'm not over the moon on anyone here. You can always play Robert Covington in a tournament. You can certainly play on DraftKings Markelle Fultz at $4,100. $4,100 is cheap enough that if they get blown out, he's randomly going to get there, and he can just fall ass backwards in enough in his 25 to 28 minutes to get enough there. So sure, play Fultz at $4,100. That's just fine for me. Saric is underpriced enough that I think you can make that play in tournaments, but I'm generally fairly tepid past Embiid, who I literally like DK 9,700. I want to play Joel Embiid if I possibly can. Outside of that, everyone else is sure, throw him in a tournament if it makes you happy. Kyle Lowry is still underpriced. I would rather spend $300 extra and play Kemba Walker on DK, but $8,000 Kyle Lowry with how ball strong he's been this year, but rougher matchup. With Kawhi back, I'd rather play Kemba Walker, but I'm not going to have any issue with any $8,000 Kyle Lowry and anything with how he's playing this year. Danny Green, again, apparently for you, but I was happier with $4,200, $4,400 Danny Green. Now he's $48,000, $5,000. Like, you're pushing it a little bit. I don't think you necessarily need to do that. Kawhi's going to be, single-digit owned for Kawhi Leonard. Like, he is just a little bit under-owned for me. I've heard people say the contrary, but I still like some exposure to Kawhi in tournaments. If you land on him, I wouldn't evolve off it. Again, I love Pascal. Either side, I think he's 44 on FanDuel. Works fine in their drop-a-score format as your cheapest player if that happens to work out. Fan of him anywhere. And then, past that, would rather play Ibaka than Valanciunas here. I don't have a problem with Valanciunas in tournaments. Always a guy who can score a lot of points a minute. You just need some Ibaka foul trouble, which isn't impossible against Joel Embiid, for example. So certainly run Jonas in some tournaments. Maybe he finally gets more than, I think, 22 minutes is his cap in minutes this year. But that's where I come down on all these guys. No one in this game that I'm super over the moon on. My favorite play is probably Pascal, and then after that, Serge as far as value goes. But some other pieces certainly to take from here. But I think my average lineup would have a guy from this game, maybe two, one on each side, running it back. So,
California Cool's asking, do you have any thoughts on Redick on FanDuel in particular, where he's 4,900?
Yeah, he will be higher owned than I want him to be in a pretty tough matchup. I mean, shooting guard on FanDuel, So Hield at 66 is fine. McCollum at 66 is fine. Eric Gordon at 64 is legit good. Fournier at 6K is good. After that it gets a little barren. So $4,900 for Redick is obviously cheap enough where I don't have any issue with you doing it. But it is a pretty bad matchup. Like, I don't know who's going to be guarding him most of this game, but all the guys who will be guarding him are very good defenders. I still think he can absolutely, get to his upside and smash it. But with the bad matchup and the ownership up, I'm fine with it. Like, there is a very real upside. There is a very real downside, and the ownership will be high. So if you have Redick, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. That's a great play. Congratulations. I wouldn't be trying to shove him into every lineup I could.
Yeah, that seems fair to me. I think overall, I would pay plus attention to this game here in particular. Eddie has pointed out some good guys here, and again, this game is just going to go low owned on both sides, and there is some value to unearth here because it is a pretty good team total between two teams who need to beat each other for positioning.
All right, so Kelly Oubre is out. If we can jump to that game, which is sort of up right now anyway, so that times nicely. I imagine we can do Washington and Memphis.
Yeah, got Washington going into Memphis. Memphis a slight favorite. Washington playing at one of the fastest paces in the league, a spot which Memphis has been pretty good at thus far. Gasol is one of my preferred plays tonight, as is Mike Conley, who's a little overpriced, but I think he's got some upside. Yep. Jaren Jackson, too, coming back from some foul trouble, looks interesting. Not as it to the Washington side, but I guess this Morris being out and Oubre's situation could affect things pretty greatly there. What do you think about this overall, Eddie?
Yeah, I really like Jeff Green, which are words you find yourself saying about twice a decade, but I really like Jeff Green when you take out Kelly Oubre and Markieff Morris. He quite possibly starts, but he's $4,000, I think, on FanDuel especially. He's 44 on DK, where I like him a little bit less, but on FanDuel he's going to be my favorite small forward punt at this point. They're going to run small a little bit, so this opens up some exposure to other guys. But finally, Otto Porter should get a full batch of minutes, and I think that's something that'll go largely unseen here. I think your info is wrong. I don't know what they're referring to, but see if you can.
Oh, yeah, Fantasy Labs saying that Kelly Oubre is active.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Hold on. I got it by a direct message from... Oh, yep, and they just corrected it. Thank you very much. Okay, so that... Durf, reload everything. Thank you very much. I would have been excited finally to play Otto Porter because they would have had to actually give Otto Porter significant minutes. They wouldn't have had a choice at that point. He'd had to make only $500,000 per minute played on the basketball court. But because his contract is not good. But okay, so Kelly Oubre is... Yeah, I got it. Oubre's in. Yeah, you read. Someone sent me a wrong message, but that's fine. I trust too much. I trust too much and I get hurt. So... That's life. Oubre being in makes Jeff Green not that good. I don't think I'm going to play Austin Rivers at this point. Oubre himself is a very reasonable play on FanDuel, where he's just 45. DK, he's 5-something. FanDuel, he's 4,500. You'll get that whole questionable and in ridiculous ownership. You're going to get 1.3% own Kelly Oubre, and that I'm interested in. He's had some big games this year. No Otto Porter for me with this news. FanDuel, I don't want John Wall. I don't want Bradley Beal. DK, I want some John Wall and I want some Bradley Beal. They're both just priced down a little bit too much. 8,400, 6,800. Memphis, not a team that is moving with... Memphis is playing fairly slow and has a number of very good individual defenders. But that being said, no one's so shut downy that I don't think either Bradley Beal or John Wall will smash the shit out of those prices. So I'm a little more inclined to Beal because I'm so strong on, say, Kemba Walker for $100 less and Chris Paul for however many $100 more he is on DK. So I just find myself more likely open to a shooting guard position. But Wall and Beal just objectively a little too cheap, even in a tough matchup. 8,400 and 6,800 for those two guys are numbers they can absolutely smash. Again, Jeff Green's still in a great spot for me, mostly on FanDuel though, where you can drop that score and he's just 4,000. The Grizzlies there, yeah, I like Conley. 76, 7,700 is a little more than I want to play for Conley. Like, for me to want to pay that for him, I need to think that there's some chance I'm gonna get like 45, 50 out of it. And he did have one game against Utah. Conley had like a 45 fantasy point game. So it can happen, and that's not obviously the world's best matchup. So I like Conley a lot in tournaments. I think that's fine. I like Gasol a lot against a Washington front court that just isn't there really anymore. You're on Mahinmi, and then without Markieff, you're on Jason Smith, or God knows what horrors stride this way from the bench. So Marc Gasol, I think you can play in absolutely anything. I really like Jaren Jackson in tournaments. He is steals blocks guy, 5,500 on DK. He's gonna play 30 minutes if he doesn't get in foul trouble. 6,400 on FanDuel. He can get a butt ton of steals and blocks in this matchup with Wizards running him to him full speed. Now he just keeps fouling someone literally every 5 minutes he's on the court, and that's really limiting his upside. So just tournaments, but there is a massive Jaren Jackson Jr. ceiling here. I don't want to talk about Kyle Anderson ever again. He was so bad. Like, I still am having flashbacks. I need therapy for how bad he was in that last game. But he's still $3,900, and there's still, I believe, no Chandler Parsons. Yeah, Chandler Parsons is still out. So you would think that makes some sense in tournaments, but I cannot stress how bad he looked last game. But should start at the 3 and should see appreciable minutes. I would probably still go there over Garrett Temple, who already had his ridiculous breakout game of the year. So,
yeah, Wayne Selden would be the one cheap guy I know I have a little bit of on there, but I think he's been playing well. Obviously, a little more pace for him would be beneficial.
Yeah, he's confirmed in, right? He was probable for a while. I want to make sure he's...
Yeah, I believe he's confirmed in. At least the last that I saw, but who fucking knows? We also just set a views record, so hey, good job by us. Yay, moment of applause. We just had 1,250 people on.
Let's do something for him. We're running out of time.
Yeah, 2 days in a row. We did it. Let's speed around these last few games. This one is very important to Eddie. It's got his favorite guy on the slate, Portland at Houston. Chris Paul is the guy here. Been talking about him all day in all of our content. He's been due to break out. A lot of people are off of him today because they just think he's getting old. I disagree. And Eddie, I know you disagree. So just take us through this game real fast.
I love Chris Paul. He's my highest projected player. I have him a little more than Embiid. I have him a little more than Russell Westbrook. Just throwing random bits of numbers at you. Those of you who remember way back to the old Roto Grinders days with the Asian rub and tug massage parlor golden curtain behind me and the whole 9 yards will know that Chris Paul versus Damian Lillard was one of those things I used to love to talk about. Chris Paul and Damian Lillard have started 22 games counting the postseason against each other in their careers. Chris Paul has outscored Damian Lillard 19 of them. 2 out of 3 times last year. The one time that they played last year, interestingly enough, James Harden was out, and in that game, Chris Paul put up 70 DraftKings points. The ownership will be down because he looked dreadful last game and was shit, and if you don't want to spend 93 on DK, 96 on FanDuel on Chris Paul, that's fine, but there is a very real shot he is the highest scoring player on this slate because of the bad last game and because of the existence of Wall and Walker and all these other good point guards. I think the ownership is tremendous, and I would plant my flag. So I cannot advise you play 100% Chris Paul because that's a very strong position, which many people would be just by avoidance disinclined to do. But I would, if I were playing, I would be massively over the field on Chris Paul. I like the micro matchup. I like the macro matchup. I like basically everything about it. The ownership will be about as good as it should be. I project him for a hair less than 60 fantasy points tonight, and 70 would not surprise me whatsoever. I'm similarly a fan of Eric Gordon. If you're curious about can I play Paul next to Gordon, in the game I'm referring to last year against the Trailblazers, without James Harden, Paul had 70, Gordon had 44, 45, 46 in that game. He's still too cheap. I like them both more without the other one because I do think there is some negative correlation between the two of them. There's some positive as well in overtime, etc., etc. Game gets out of control, but I would rather play one than both. But especially if you foolishly don't play Chris Paul tonight, play yourself some Eric Gordon, who may very possibly again take 22 shots and 13 3-pointers and make more than one of them. That could really possibly happen. Carmelo Anthony would rather stack with Paul than with Gordon, but very similar situation, and he is well too cheap on DK. On DK, I probably have to prefer him to Gordon. They're going to fulfill similar roles. It's just someone's got to jack up shots on this team. He's only 5,300 there. So on DK, it's 800 less on Melo than on Gordon. On FanDuel, Melo is 500 more or something like that. So I would obviously be inclined towards those by sight. PJ Tucker is still too cheap on DK, just tournaments, but at $4,700 can get 5 wide open corner threes. This can certainly work out. And I would rather play Nurkic than Capella. Nurkic has done an oddly good job against Clint Capella. Capella doesn't have the rapport with Chris Paul that he does with, say, Harden. So he's one guy that I like a little bit less without Harden out. I do think it's adds some upside. You can get maybe the big Capella game, but at those prices, I would randomly look elsewhere, and don't completely sleep on Gerald Green as a just a punt guy at 45 on FanDuel or 39 on DK, just tournaments. So, huge fan of Chris Paul. I'm absolutely going back to the well. I have watched him play something to the order of, God, I don't even know, 500 minutes of basketball against Damian Lillard heads up, and it's a matchup I'm very confident in. And he's also cheaper than Damian Lillard heads up, and their ownerships are going to be similar, which I imagine I will be talking about all night, either going, I told you I've seen this 20 times, or, okay, maybe he got old. I mean, that can be your argument. He got old. I mean, he is on the, like, if you're saying, if you want reasons that I'm not positive, Lillard is in his prime, and Paul is sliding out of his. So at some point, this past history will not be the case. I don't think it's now. I think it's in 18 months, 2.5 years, something, but you can certainly have, that could be your argument against. But, I'm Chris Paul there. I'm not playing Damian Lillard for that reason. Although I will say this. If you wanted to play Damian Lillard, my argument would be Chris Paul's going to be so busy on offense, he's not going to have time to play world-class defense. Especially at his age, nobody gives 100% on both ends of the court. So people rarely do it earlier, but it's been true for like LeBron for years. Kind of did it for a couple years and then went, you know what, I'm going to score and I'm going to play hard defense in April. And that's what happened. And his defensive numbers went from being, top 3 defensive guy in the league to very not top 3 defensive guy in the league. Because he's like, look, I'm going to do it on London and I'm going to let some balls go. So, and if you look at that game last year again, where you had 70 out of Paul, you had 50 out of Lillard. 50 and a couple, I think, should memory serve. I believe it was March of last year. Someone can look it up if they like. Other spots, I much prefer CJ McCollum to Damian Lillard if you want to play one of those guys tonight. We'll get the much better defensive matchup. Has performed in this matchup previously, gets guarded by Gerald Greens and Eric Gordons, and just generally easier matchup. So I would rather play McCollum than Lillard. Evan Turner, I already talked about. Big fan of Evan Turner, especially 3,900 DK. You can play him in anything. Aminu is always tournaments. And Nurkic 6K on DK, I legit like in tournaments.
So no Collins for you then if you like Nurkic, right?
I still don't have an issue playing Collins because he's just cheap enough. Like, Collins is still, I'm trying to remember what his price point is at right now, but he's 48 and 43 or something like that. And no, you're still just fine to play Collins in a tournament because Nurkic is certainly not solid for me. I think the upside is there in that $6,000 Collins or $6,000 Nurkic can randomly get me 40. I think that's very possible. So I like playing Nurkic. That being said, I'm doing that because of the upside, not because of the certainty. And if he doesn't get there, then Collins at his price is incredibly likely to get there. So no, I have no issue with you playing Collins either. I slightly prefer Nurkic as a play based on what I expect at the position, the other value available at power forward and center. You have Jeremy Grant and a couple other guys that I feel like I can go to. But no, I'm actually fine with both those guys. Oddly, most days I'll be more one or the other. I can see this going either way.
Okay. On to our last game, and then we're going to burn through questions. So let's hit this fast, Eddie. Clippers going at Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City favored by 2. Russell Westbrook, the only guy in this game projected to have ownership, but the pace looks pretty high, the adjusted pace, rather, between the two teams. The Clippers have been playing faster after starting the year pretty slow. Might be a case of matchup, might be a case of them adjusting a little to their lineup finally. And Oklahoma City, again, you have Westbrook on the other side, very cheap on DK, projected to be pretty highly owned. What do you think about this one?
I'll play Chris Paul over Westbrook. DK, it's a little closer, where it's $1,200 less, but I just legit have him projected for more than Russell Westbrook. This is a bad matchup. The Clippers are stacked with good defenders at the point. Now, nobody's good against Russell Westbrook. He looks like he's 100%. I by no means am reducing the possibility of Westbrook putting up 73 tonight. No, it absolutely could happen, and 10-5 on DK is a fine price. I would just personally not do it. I would be like, you know what, I think there's a real chance he gets 50 there. I'm going to look at other guys to do it. The Clippers they run really deep. Everybody's always fresh, and they just have a number of pretty interesting defensive guys to throw out at you. Like, you run into, especially at the guards position, you see some Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then Patrick Beverley can be an all-world defender, and Avery Bradley still has some chops, even at his, advanced age. And it's just, the pace isn't so stellar, and the combination, it's been pretty sticky defensively, and a lot of unders hit for this team, and not a lot of teams in the NBA this year have hit a lot of unders. This is one of them. I generally don't want to spend $12,000 on FanDuel for Westbrook, and on DK, I generally want to play Chris Paul. So could you play Paul and Westbrook? Sure. that's $20,000 you're spending, and sort of hamstrings the rest of your lineup, and that's your studs. But okay, but I'm just playing Chris Paul over Westbrook today. So in a macro, setting aside the existence of Chris Paul, let us pretend like many men's testicles, hopefully that Chris Paul doesn't exist because he likes to hit people in the newts. I would think, Westbrook is a pretty strong play just because he's going to get 50, right? He's going to get 47. Like, how bad is it going to go? 10-5 is just a little too cheap to him, even in a matchup I don't like. So if you are in disagreement with me on the Chris Paul take, then yeah, by all means, I'm going to have no issue with any amount of Westbrook in just about everything. Even in cash, you have to, I project him for 53, 54. So at 10-5, that's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that number. Danilo Gallinari and Tobias Harris will go under-owned in this matchup, especially Gallinari on FanDuel where he's 6,300. That's too cheap. I project him for the mid-30s. That's just too cheap. These teams got together earlier this year, and they were both good. You got like 50 out of Tobias Harris in that game and 30 some odd out of Gallinari. Those two guys carry the water on offense for this team. Like, you start the game, you have Beverly out there who does shit offensively, Avery Bradley who does shit offensively, and Marcin Gortat who does shit offensively. Like, it is one of very few teams in the league where there are three non-offensive players out there to start the game, really. So, yeah, Gallinari and Harris take 20 shots a game and will continue to do so. So I still like having some exposure to these guys. They're both better priced on FanDuel, but especially there. Harris and Gallo. Not the spot I think I'm necessarily looking to Lou Williams, but I wouldn't hate it in a tournament. He's still 5,200 on FanDuel. He's still playing 24, 26 minutes, not the 30, 32 he was seeing last year. And you can Montrezl and anything if you want. I don't think this is the best spot for him. I think it's a spot in which Gortat gets to spend a little extra time. I think it's a spot where they actually may throw some time at the giant Boban. But I just imagine it's a very Creature of the Black Lagoon thing.
That was fair. That was a good Boban impression. Let's speed round questions. I think we got enough in that game out. And also just one last point about that game. Clippers giving up a 40.4% field goal percentage to opposing teams. Again, as Eddie mentioned, that backcourt's been really good. I actually talked to Josh about this on Sunday because he was like, I love John Wall. I was like, watch out for John Wall because he's fat and lazy, and the Clippers are very feisty.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very similar situation with, yes, that's a very good take. So again, I will say very quickly, Jeremy Grant, you can play in anything, especially at DK 4,200. Time is still going to be very solid. Steven Adams in tournaments makes a fair amount of sense to me. Again, the whole questionable now playing thing, you get the ownership on those guys. That's pretty sexy. So if I'm building any number of lineups, I have some Steven Adams. Okay, I'm done.
All right, there we go. Speed round. Healed, Danilo, and Serge, or Avery, Kawhi, Jeremy Grant on FanDuel? Cash.
The former in cash.
Let's see. Favorite game stack.
Counting ownership. Probably Orlando and Sacramento, but I really don't mind Orlando and Sacramento or Cleveland and Atlanta or Memphis and Washington. Like, I think there are a few very interesting games to stack at low ownership here, but I will take Orlando and Sacramento. If the game stays close, there's just a lot of underpriced dudes in that game. So if you are running out Bielitsa, Fox, Cauley Stein, Gordon, Fournier, those guys can all savage their prices if that game stays close. And if it stays close, those guys on Sacramento are very likely to do so. So probably go with that one.
Favorite DK center, Cash.
Cash is tough. Is Pascal center eligible? No, he's power forward only. No. That would have been my question there. I don't hate guys who I think are fine to play in cash. Embiid. I'm going to say Nurkic just because 6K is so incredibly cheap. Whiteside. Cauley Stein. Ibaka. It's probably Serge Ibaka for me. I don't really want to spend up on the position necessarily, so probably up to Embiid or Serge Ibaka for me. Looks like it would be. Don't hate if you want to play like $4,100 Cody Zeller. Gonna get time. Can't fuck that up too much, and yeah, so there we are.
Thoughts on Steven Adams? Would you play him or no?
Strong tournament play. If you're building more like one lineup, I don't think I have Steven Adams. Lots of lineups, I would make sure to have some Steven Adams. It's a good spot, and just the ownership is gonna be 8%, and that's pretty exciting.
Thoughts on Bridges as a value play?
More of a cash punt for me. I don't think there's a giant amount of upside there. But I can see playing him in cash over, say, Jeff Green on FanDuel where he's 4K and 3,400. Probably your best $3,400 and less cash play on DK. But more cash than tournaments for me. I'd be surprised to get 30 out of him, but I think you probably get your 20.
Thoughts on Kelly O tonight after he burned everybody with Whiteside on a back-to-back for DK?
Yeah, strong tournament play. Talked about it before. You'll get him at a much lower percentage. Kelly O is a very hard to predict player. As are the rotations. It's hard to guess when he's going to go off. So when he's chalky like yesterday, I had very little interest for that reason. It's just like, I don't know really what's going to happen with this guy ever. I'll take him at 10%. I don't want him at 35%. So today, I'm pretty sure he's going to start, and I get him at 10%. I'll go with Kelly O. So strong in tournaments.
Favorite cash shooting guard, 4K and under, no site given. So that's actually a pretty important part of that. So
Bembry is a hair over 4K. Pass. Move on to the next question without a site, especially we're out of time. Evan Turner on DK. Get that one off.
I don't know if this game started yet, but Len versus Dedmon. Any thoughts on them in tournaments? I think that might have started.
I would play Dedmon. Yeah, we talked about it already, but I would play Dedmon. Would be where I would have landed there. Let's play some Daddy Like.
Let's play Daddy Like. We gotta Whiteside's already active too, right? So yeah, never mind. Sorry, Brandon T. Yeah, unfortunately we didn't time this one out perfectly. We same issue where we fall in love with the details of the early games and don't get enough time. But we'll do a better job this tomorrow. Might have to hold you to a tight train-like schedule like Josh did yesterday.
That worked well. Yesterday was good. Yesterday we only got like 13 minutes of questions, which is it's interesting. Like I almost only want to do questions, which sounds crazy, but I almost want to be like 10 minutes. Here's the guys I want to talk about. I have a strong take on Bielitsa. I have a strong take on Chris Paul I want to talk to you about. I have a strong take on, and I want to talk about the 8 guys who I think are really interesting. And then just burn through questions and try to have you take like all the non-X or Y questions because they're really reductive. But, we usually come right after a game where 2 guys who I think are brilliant and do an amazing job just went through every game. So why am I going through every game again? It seems like that may not be the most efficient usage of my time. On the other hand, I'm hopefully dropping some occasional knowledge bombs going through game by game, so maybe I don't even know. Here we go. Ownership, just what I'm thinking about.
We got to slate this again. This is the game we play when the show is over. We want to find what Daddy likes.
Oh God! All right,
so what does Daddy like today, Eddie?
I blame Kawhi for the particular nom de guerre that we've added for this contest. For all right, highest owned player, Kemba Walker, 40%. Hey, muscly arms. That's high. Makes me happy for my Chris Paul ownership, which is going to be even lower than I thought it might be. But 40% Kemba Walker. I still think he's an exceptional play at $8,300. So Daddy like, but you wanted that number to be lower. Buddy Hield, 34%. Probably almost pass for me at that point. Like, it's 34% and it's Buddy Hield. Like, it's just it's like when Kent Bazemore was 40% the other day. It's Kent Bazemore. I don't care how good the matchup is. This is a full 50-60% chance he will fuck it up. Like, against my high school varsity team, he might have gone 3 for 28 from the field and gotten a technical and 5 fouls. Like, it just... he is as inconsistent a quantity as there is in this sport. Speaking of which, third place after Buddy Hield. Boy, life has gotten interesting in the association when your number 2 and 3 owned players are Buddy Hield and Kent Bazemore. Because they are 23% Kent Bazemore.
Good for Kent.
Yeah, good. I'm amazed.
I believe in him. I'm so happy.
Yeah, like if you're not, well, this means, oh God, look at the Trae Young ownership. All right. I'm fine with Kent Bazemore, especially this is DK, so 23%, that's fine. 5,700, he's too cheap for the upside. We saw like a 35 and a 42 back-to-back a while ago, and the matchup is exceptional. He was good in this exact matchup, so I get it. That's fine. You shouldn't feel too bad about it. Trae Young is 8%. So I'm a little more excited about 8% Trae Young than 23% Kent Bazemore, and that's a strong hedge. That is a strong... wedge against the field because you're also fading sort of a popular player there because it's less likely they'll both go off. Only fractions of a percentage less than Kent Bazemore. Nemanja Bjelica, 22%. Again, we've talked him to death. Aaron Gordon, only 20%, a little less than I thought. Larry Nance, 17.5. Willie Cauley-Stein, 16.75. Nicholas Batum, 13.9. Vooch, 13.8. Fournier, 13.7. Okay. That's all those guys in the 13s. Dedmon, 10%. A little higher than I would have thought. Whiteside, 9%. Like, the prices come up, but Whiteside, 9%, and Trae Young, 8%. knowing those numbers, if I could build a lineup right now and enter in tournaments, I'd probably start with Whiteside and Young. Those are just two guys with gigantic upside in single-digit ownership. That's exciting. Jeremy Lamb, 7.24%. Daddy like, as said. Colin Sexton, 7%. Daddy do not like, although he is a young, strapping man. Josh Richardson.
Oh, he must be so mad that Daddy doesn't like him. He's like, he's just going to flog himself.
Get your fat ass back here.
That always gives me the giggles. You're really good at that voice.
Thank you. I try. I want to learn more, but I haven't seen it in like 10 years. There's my favorite is always, "Hey, muscly arms." Like I really enjoy "Hey, muscly arms." Or, you like
it's a nice compliment for Chris.
And there's yes, who? Like he does that weird high pitched thing there once in a while. I mean, it's all high pitched, but I don't know. I'll think about it. Colin Sexton, 7%. Josh Richardson, 7%. Chetty Osman, 6.3. All right. Daddy likes some cheddar at 6.3. That's pretty good. Miles Bridges, 6.25. There you go. We were talking about that one. Rodney McGruder, 5%. De'Aaron Fox, 3.7%. Daddy really like I said, that whole questionable playing thing. You get some dumb percentages. Drogic, 3.7%. Daddy like. Frank Mason, 3.5%. Well, De'Aaron Fox is playing now, so that's not so good. Justin Jackson, 3.5. Done correctly, that's fine. If he's in that Marvin Bagley, I don't think the game stays close, I get a pile of minutes thing. Hood, 3%, fine. Jonathan Isaac, 3%, Daddy like. Torian Prince, 2.9%, Daddy like. DeAndre Bembry, 2.8%, Daddy really like. This is some Daddy likes a lot of these 3%ers here. Michael Kidd Gilchrist, 2.6. DJ Augustine, 2.6. Jordan Clarkson, 2.4. Sam Decker, 2.2. Tristan Thompson, 1.9. Daddy like. Dwayne Wade, 1.7. Daddy like. Kelly Olynyk, 1.6%. Daddy like.
Oh, that's a Kelly Olynyk night then.
Yeah. Alex Lynn, 1.5. Terrence Ross, 1.5. Marvin Bagley, 1.4. George Hill, 1.1. Cody Zeller, 1 fly. Daddy like. Amari Spellman, 0.99. Vince Carter, 0.96. Tyler Johnson, 0.82. Justice Winslow, 0.65. Marvin Williams, 0.60. Jerry Grant, 0.54. Kyle Korver, 0.52. Derek Jones Jr., 0.5. Jonathan Simmons, 0.48. Malik Monk, 0.48. Mo Bamba, 0.41. Daddy like Mo Bamba at 0.41. I'll go ahead and say that. He's only gotten like 20 minutes, but 0.41. You can do some damage there. Adebayo, 0.31. I like that. Tony Parker, 0.3. Miles Plumlee, 0.28. Yogi Ferrell, 0.26. Kevin Huerter, 0.21. Channing Frye, 0.18. Jeremy Lin, 0.13. Is anyone going to play themselves? It hasn't happened yet. David Nwaba, 0.10. Mon Shumpert, 0.06. Guillermo Hernan-Gomez is like out of the rotation. That could count as a congrats, you played yourself. But J.R. Smith, 0.06. Costa Kufas, 0.05. I don't think technically out yet. Dwayne Bacon, 0.04. Harry Giles, 0.04, also out of the rotation. Bismack Biyombo, 0.04, back in the rotation because of the aforementioned. Duncan Robinson, 0.04. Frank Kaminsky, 0.04. Tyler Dorsey, 0.03. Wes Iwundo, 0.03. Oh, we're not even going to get there. John Holland, 0.03. Jalen Adams, 0.02. Billy Preston, 0.02. Wayne Ellington, 0.02. Active. It's not good enough. It's not in the rotation yet, but active. Daniel Hamilton, 0.02. Active. Kem Birch, 0.02. Active. Justin Anderson, 0.02. Hold on. I don't know. Justin Anderson may actually be congratulations, you played yourself. I think he may actually be inactive. I have to look.
I think he might be. I feel like I kind of learned about him today, but I don't remember what the outcome was. Wasn't top of my radar, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was not like I can't even find. He's that important to the rotation here. Like I don't think he's Justin Anderson won't play Monday against... No, damn it, that's the wrong one. He was out Monday, definitely. Come on. All right, well, if someone can find news, I'm going to go back and look and see if we missed anyone else. But I don't know if anyone was actually... anyone? I don't know if there's anyone actually like out of... Oh, there we go. Someone played Bogdan Bogdanovic. Congratulations, you played yourself. He's out a couple more weeks. Whew. Someone also
there
played,
we go. We got it in.
Someone also played Dion Waiters. You also played yourself. So, like, literally there are 2 invalid entries in the early games.
Wait, yeah. Shumpert is out, too. Shumpert is resting.
Shumpert is out?
Yep. He's rest.
Oh, okay. We definitely had some Shumpty dance in there. Is that recent news?
A couple hours ago. It was out when they announced that De'Aaron Fox's game time decision.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't mind the 3% Justin Jackson at all. Then look at that. He is going to start. Just got that news. Fox, Hield, Jackson, Bielitsa, Cauley-Stein. So Justin Jackson actually a pretty strong play at 3,800 or whatever. Not a very good basketball player, but starting with a real chance of getting like 28 minutes. I wouldn't have minded some Justin Jackson in there. How the hell did I miss some Shumpert news? What is
I
Marcus?
don't know how you could possibly miss that. That's huge news. When
I
I'm
know.
on Shumpert's out, the lineups change. That's just how it goes.
I try not to miss any news. It always bothers me when I miss anything. People are like, you missed a guy. I'm like, really? All I do all day is check Twitter and make sure I don't fuck this up. So it's always disappointing when I somehow miss a guy. Yeah.
Quick question for the YouTube chat, because we really neglected the YouTube chat today. Jacques Quiam, which is not how you pronounce your name. But
Go ahead.
the Jacques part was right. Can you guys quickly touch on who was the strongest play on DK between Green, Grant, Turner, and Siakam?
So many greens. Those are all forwards, so I'll assume that is Jeff. Because Danny is also playing. Jermichael got his jaw broken in prison.
Could be Gerald.
I'm sorry, Gerald's playing too. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, he's playing right. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
All right, so I'm saying I want to play all 5 greens in the NBA night, and we almost had it, and Jermichael went and got his jaw broke. Jeff Green, Pascal Siakam, who are the other 2?
It was Green, Grant, Evan Turner, and Siakam.
Yeah, I like all those guys. I will say for cash, I probably like Evan Turner the most. For tournaments, I don't know. Maybe I like Pascal the most. Both Evan Turner and Pascal at 3,900 are really, really strong plays. So I like all 4 of those guys. In tournaments, I think you can pivot to Jeremy Grant or Jeff Green at their prices. But Green.
Oh, he was asking Gerald Green.
God damn! So really, all the others were like 4. I guess Evan Turner is a 2-3. Like the rest are basically all forwards. It's bullshit. He was asking Gerald. I guess those guys are all like 3,900. See, like Price, I should have figured that out. Okay.
Well, Gerald's a small forward too, I think, isn't he? Is he
Gerald
shooting guard, small forward?
I think he's 2-3. I don't know. I will admit I know he's small forward on FanDuel. He is 2-3. He's also, but it's $3,900 is what he was jumping up and down on there. I think.
Yeah.
Was the
anything
idea
else good?
Yeah. So that's I think the cashier options there are Siakam and Turner. Siakam just points is probably the best play. Turner the second best, but Turner will be commensurately lower owned. So either way you want to go in tournaments there. And then Gerald Green, a perfectly reasonable pivot. And, Zach Collins is, I think, 4K flat too. So, like, that's another interesting pivot. Apparently you have, like, a utility spot open.
We got last 3 questions. We got 2 on the premium Slack and 1 on YouTube that I want to hit because I care. Ibaka, Turner, and CP3, or Gasol, Melo, and Jaren Jackson Jr. on DK for our boy C. D'Agostino.
In a tournament, I would play the second one. In cash, I think I have to play the first one.
Okay. I think I would agree with that, actually. Would you go Wall and Tucker or Kawhi and Michael Carter-Williams for a DK GPP?
Probably play Wall and Tucker. Yeah, I would play Wall and Tucker, I think.
I'm not Wall crazy, but
yeah, I'm not Wall crazy either. But you'll have enough separation there without having to Michael Carter-Williams. And again, I've generally been higher on Michael Carter-Williams. Had a couple bad games. I liked him more than I think everyone else the last game, and he put up 21, I think, which is tolerable at his price. But generally, there's a lot of great value today. I don't really want to go there. So between those 2 options, I would rather take the one that doesn't make me play MCW.
All right, and last question for you.
If you gave me, Kawhi, Miles, Bridges, I might play that instead.
Last question, which is the centers remaining who people can swap to. Would you go Marc Gasol or Clint Capella? I know your answer.
Gasol.
Mine's Gasol.
Yeah, Marc Gasol. It's been difficult. I didn't look it up. I just have a sort of a mnemonically. Like I'll look it up real quick. It'll take a minute just to pull the 2 files. But if I look at Capella, Nurk. All right, here it is, loading up now. So. Capella's game starting against Nurk, where they both saw 20 or more minutes. We'll sort it to that. 3 times last year they played. Capella had 11, 10, 1, 2, and 1. 5, 6, 1, 1, and a turnover and foul trouble in 24 minutes. But literally 5.6 rebounds. And one of these is the non-James Harden game, and I think that's it. We'll do that because we're here. And then the other game last year first was 15-9, 1 and 2, or rather 13-9, 1 and 2. So really, they did this 3 times last year. He didn't pick up any decent score in any of them. I don't like to entirely game log watch, and I don't think it's that bad of a matchup. So like if you played Capella, I would guess he outperforms all 3 of those scores. Like I do think those are all like if you roll a 10-sided die 3 times, you can roll a 1, 2, and a 3. I do think those are 3 very low scores for him. But it isn't a matchup I'm particularly looking to target, and I really like Gasol's matchup. So, yeah, I would look there. Let me see. One of these should have Harden out. I seem to remember that. Let me make sure. Okay, he played that game. Let's look at March 20th. He played that game. All right, let's look at January 10th. Did he not play this game? Hello? Sorry, it's taking a minute. Okay, yeah, he didn't play this game. So this was the game where James Harden didn't play. Again, Chris Paul played 32 minutes and 41 seconds and had 70 fantasy points. That's a large number. I don't know if you knew that. Eric Gordon played 33 minutes and had 45 fantasy points. Ariza played 39 minutes and had 16 fantasy points. You're bad. Ryan Anderson played 35 minutes and had 22 fantasy points. And Capella played 24 minutes and had 28.75 fantasy points. So, yeah, I think those minutes come up tonight. You're probably seeing 29-30, so even that would translate to 35-36. But my answer is Gasol, just sort of gut play there.
All right, there you go. So that's it for us today. Again, use the promo code LIVE4LOCK if you want to get free access for a week to all of Eddie's rankings, along with the rankings from Osmo, the top DFS player in the world, projections from Josh, and the former Fan Vice guys who do a great job as well, and the ownership stuff that we talk about every show as well, which is very important to getting ahead of the field. So go now, osmo.com, promo code LIVE4LOCK. Any parting words for everybody, Eddie, before we go and do this again tomorrow?
Yeah, only to briefly say that the schedule has been brilliant on the part of the NBA. Literally between the middle of last week and this week, if you look at games a day, it's been like 9, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9, 7. Like there's literally a stretch of 11 days where there's one day where the number of games isn't between 6 and 9, which is incredible for DFS. So for a number of years, you had 8 games on Monday, 3 games on Tuesday, 13 games on Wednesday, 2 games on Thursday, 14 games on Friday, and it was like, oh my God, there was never anything just sort of nice and in the middle there. So yeah, just wanted to point out that we're back again tomorrow, and it's a good slate again for the 9th time in 10 days. So looking forward to it.
There we go. We'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, Dave in the premium Slack pointing out no 10:30 p.m. Eastern time games tonight. So enjoy your rest, guys. Save it all up, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk more NBA stuff. And who knows what else. We'll be doing NBA for sure. See you guys then. Good luck tonight.
Now, I have to stop the stream.
You do have to stop the stream. You do, in fact.
Try to imagine every particle in your body exploding simultaneously at the speed of light. Total protonic reversal. Okay, don't cross the streams. Important safety tip, Egon.